Chapter 672, Chao Yuan and Qingyu. Well, since you're here, Jiang Er should be here too. Chao Yuan thought of this and relaxed. She doesn't have any life fluctuations herself, so even if she uses the forbidden ruins she won't be detected. In this place it's her world. And Qingyu's gaze swept over Chao Yuan, pausing for a moment on the chains glowing with a faint light, her brows slightly furrowing. These chains pierced through Chao Yuan's body, locking onto his bones and completely immobilizing him. Not only that, but the eerie glow on the surface of the chains was corroding his surroundings like sulfuric acid upon contact with his bones. In Qingyu's eyes, this eerie glow was slowly eating away at Chao Yuan's body, but at the same time, wisps of dark flames were igniting within him, countering the glow and preventing its spread. They're gnawing at my bones, but the Black King's malevolent energy flowing within me can withstand them. I won't die. Chao Yuan smiled faintly, his face pale. Doesn't it hurt? And Qingyu frowned as she looked into Chao Yuan's eyes. This process sounded simple, but the pain it contained was far beyond what an ordinary person could endure, like someone chiseling away at your bones bit by bit and remaining in the same area. The most critical part was that this pain was continuous. Chao Yuan had gritted his teeth and endured it for nearly 2 years. It hurts. Chao Yuan grinned, but I don't have any other strengths, I can only endure. And besides enduring, I have no other choice. And Qingyu's brows were tightly knitted as her gaze swept over the chains. She pulled out a few black surgical knives from her pocket and said, I'll help you cut these chains. No. Chao Yuan shook his head decisively. Those oracles are still here. Once you free me from the chains they will definitely notice. By then we won't be able to leave. You've worked hard to infiltrate the Pure Land, you should have more important things to do. But you... Don't worry about me, it's just a bit of pain. I've endured it for 2 years. What's another moment? Chao Yuan smiled slightly. Moreover, these chains are constantly eroding my bones and the malevolent flames are tempering me. Unconsciously I can feel my body's strength increasing, and my control over the Black King's slaughter is improving. This is also a form of cultivation for me. And Qingyu fell silent for a moment, then spoke bitterly, Your cultivation is too harsh. I don't have a brain as smart as yours, nor the powerful talent of Qie, and I don't have the good luck of Peng Peng. If I want to keep up with you I have to endure some hardship, Chao Yuan said with a smile, shaking his head. You should go, don't worry about me. Go do what you need to do and when the time is right come back to save me. And Qingyu stood in front of Chao Yuan, contemplating for a long time before nodding firmly. All right, 3 days. Give me 3 days. A determined glint flashed in Qingyu's eyes. Within 3 days I will definitely deal with those oracles and then come back to save you. Deal with the oracles in 3 days? If anyone else had said this, Chao Yuan would definitely not have believed it. But if the person saying it was Qingyu, then it was a different story. If Qingyu said she could do it in 3 days, then she definitely could. Okay. Chao Yuan nodded. I'll wait for you. And Qingyu took one last look at him, decisively turned around and strode toward the door. Once the prison door was closed, the cell fell into darkness again. The intense pain made Chao Yuan grit his teeth, but now that bone-deep pain seemed somewhat bearable. After a long time, a faint smile appeared at the corner of Chao Yuan's mouth. Having companions really is reassuring. Qingyu, I've covered the surveillance records of your conversation with Chao Yuan in the cell and deleted all visitor records. They won't find out you were here. Jiang Er's voice echoed in the Bluetooth earpiece, and Qingyu nodded slightly. Well done. Are you really confident you can deal with the oracles in the Pure Land within 3 days? Jiang Er's voice was filled with concern. Each of them is a Peak Klein realm expert, and they all possess powerful abilities. You're still half a step away from entering the Wuliang realm. Who said I have to kill them head-on? And Qingyu adjusted her glasses, the lenses reflecting the harsh white light as she spoke lightly. For this final move I'm going to take a big gamble. I believe in you. How's the information retrieval for Subject 0 going? It's already completed. Jiang Er paused for a moment before beginning to read the internal data on Subject 0 from the Pure Land. Subject 0, real name Yuli Langbai, 13 years old, son of the ghost-level wanted criminal Yuli Heijia, a second-generation royal blood awakener, with an observation experiment lasting 13 years, 2 months and 6 days. On September 16, 101 of the new calendar, the 138th royal blood purity test was conducted, with the purity result improved by % compared to the 137th test. Analysis results. On October 3, 101 of the new calendar, a beta-level 6th generation artificial hormone intravenous injection was administered, with mental strength increased by %. Analysis results. On October 4, 101 of the new calendar, adverse reactions to the beta-level artificial hormone injection occurred, resulting in vomiting blood, pale complexion and loss of consciousness. A gamma-level artificial hormone was injected to forcibly stimulate physical potential, and the subject awakened at 8:14 and 7 seconds p.m. that day. On October 19, 101 of the new calendar, a beta-level 6th generation auxiliary artificial hormone intravenous injection was administered. As Nqingyu listened to Jiang Er read the recent 2 months of experimental reports, her frown deepened. What exactly do these oracles want to do with this child? Jiang Er, print me a complete experimental report for the past 13 years. I want to start from the beginning to study this experiment. I want to see what these oracles who possess advanced technology are really up to. Understood. By the time Nqingyu returned to the control room, a report of over 800 pages had already piled up on her desk, forming a small mountain. During Nqingyu's infiltration into the prison area, Jiang Er had provided protection all the way, hacking into the surveillance system and deleting all records of her presence, so it hadn't raised any alarms among the other oracles. They never suspected that there was an intruder in the Pure Land, secretly coexisting with them. Nqingyu sat at the low table, picking up the experimental report and carefully flipping through it page by page. As time passed, the look of surprise in Nqingyu's eyes grew more intense, and by the end her eyes were filled with shock. This experiment. Are these oracles insane? Chapter 673. Artificial God. What's wrong? Dressed in a blue bathrobe, Jiang Er floated to his side and asked with a puzzled expression. Nqingyu placed the experimental report on the table, his face serious as he spoke. Just as Yuzu Lihei thought, Yuzu Longbai was captured by the Oracle Envoy right after birth and became experiment number 0. For the first 3 years since Yuzu Longbai's body was still developing, the experiments mainly consisted of observations and blood sample collections. Once he turned 4, they began injecting him with various drugs. The components of these drugs are very complex, and some ingredients seem to be unconventional chemicals not derived from artificial extraction. They likely come from somewhere else and possess terrifying potential. While developing new synthetic hormones, they injected Yuzu Longbai, and each injection had a high probability of causing severe side effects. Whenever these side effects occurred, they would inject another drug that overdraws potential, which is similar in composition to the Night Watchman's ghostly essence but relatively milder, so that under microinjection, it wouldn't be lethal in one go. Injecting synthetic hormones to push him to the brink of death while also overdrawing his potential to keep him alive? Jiang Er's brows furrowed tightly. He's just a 13-year-old child. What do they really want? Potential activation, bloodline purification, gene recombination. Nqingyu looked at the experimental report in front of him and slowly spoke. They want to create a god. Create a god? Using scientific means to push humans beyond physiological limits, thus getting infinitely closer to divinity, even stepping into the realm of gods. This is the ultimate goal of this 13-year-long experiment, Nqingyu said calmly. But stepping into the realm of gods requires laws. How could science possibly grant him laws? Jiang Er asked. I don't know, Nqingyu pondered for a moment. Perhaps this is related to the so-called royal blood? Have they succeeded? From the current experimental situation, it appears they have not. One more question. Jiang Er paused. This country itself believes in gods, right? Is the creation of a god truly permitted by the divine? Nqingyu slowly stood up, looking at the chessboard on the low table beside him, a faint smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. The messengers of the gods are secretly creating gods. It seems the secrets here are more interesting than I imagined. Pure Land. On the other side, at the edge of the silver circular platform, the hatch slowly opened, and the white-robed Oracle Envoy flew in from the clouds outside the Pure Land. With a gentle wave of his hand, the hatch closed heavily, sealing off the wild winds from the high altitude. The white-robed Oracle envoy just returned from outside, walked to the electronic display screen and spoke lightly. Yuzhen, I'm back. Please perform identity verification. A beam of light from the corner of the display screen shone into the electronic eye of the Oracle envoy's left eye, causing the white circle in his eye to slightly contract. After the identity verification was completed, the door in front of the Oracle envoy gradually opened, and he stepped inside. The internal space of the Pure Land is vast, roughly equivalent to the area of more than a dozen large sports arenas, but 70% of it is occupied by equipment and hardware facilities essential for the operation of the Pure Land, controlled intelligently by Yuzhen. The remaining space consists of prison areas, experimental zones, living quarters, training areas, and so on. The white-robed Oracle envoy walked through the long corridor and arrived at his own domain, standing in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city below, his eyes slightly squinting. Yuzhen. I'm here. Where did number 2 go? Number 2, number 4, and number 6 Oracle envoys went to Osaka to suppress the Hazuki Blade Master. Among them, number 4 lost soul connection 6 hours ago and the self-detonation device was activated. Number 2, due to undergoing mental transformation, has detached from his original modified body, and life signs cannot be detected, leaving his fate unknown. Number 6 is severely injured and is currently unaccounted for. 1 dead, 1 severely injured, and 1 whose fate is unknown. The white-robed Oracle envoy frowned slightly. Has the replication of number 4 begun? The replication program for number 4 has been initiated, and it is expected to complete body reconstruction in 95 hours and 32 minutes, followed by memory data transmission and backup recovery. The white-robed Oracle envoy nodded slightly, looking out at the increasingly darkening sky, feeling a sense of unease for some reason. 3 Oracle envoys lost at once. What exactly happened in Osaka? He murmured to himself. Baka. Amusement park. Boom. Amidst the screams, the roller coaster raced along the tracks, soaring through the air in a series of winding arcs, diving down from a great height at an astonishing speed. Yuzurina and Uncle Kyoji sat in the front row, arms outstretched, experiencing the thrill and drop of weightlessness while excitedly shouting, their voices echoing in the sky. Below the roller coaster, Lin Chia leaned against the railing, watching the father-daughter duo having a great time, a faint smile on his face. Ice cream. Amaya Seiwi walked out from a shop behind them, holding 4 ice creams in both hands and handed one to Lin Chia. Thank you. Lin Chia smiled. Amaya Seiwi looked up at the roaring roller coaster, a hint of a smile on her lips. It looks pretty good from here. Quite a joyful scene. Lin Chia held the ice cream, paused for a moment and sighed deeply. Amaya Seiwi stood beside him, a trace of sadness flashing in her eyes. This family's fate is too tumultuous. Yeah, Lin Chia forced a smile. I hope one day they can truly find happiness. As the two chatted, the roller coaster slowly came to a stop. Uncle Kyoji took Yuzurina's hand as they got off the ride, smiling as they walked toward Lin Chia and Amaya. Did you prepare ice cream for us? Amaya, you're so thoughtful. Uncle Kyoji took the 2 ice creams and handed one to Yuzurina. Thank you, brother Amaya. Yuzurina licked her ice cream, her eyes turning into crescent moons with joy. It seems like it's getting late, we should head back. Uncle Kyoji looked up at the increasingly dark sky, thick clouds beginning to obscure the sunlight. I hope it won't rain soon. Are we going back? Yuzurina seemed a bit reluctant, shaking Uncle Kyoji's hand and pleading, Daddy, I want to ride the drop tower one more time. After this we can go home. Uncle Kyoji glanced at the sky and decisively nodded. All right, let's ride the drop tower one last time. Let's go, let's go. Yuzurina grabbed Uncle Kyoji's wrist and quickly ran toward the towering drop tower in the distance. Chapter 674. Kayasuke's Request. Ah. Amidst a chorus of gasps, the drop tower plummeted from the sky. A few minutes later, Uncle Kayasuke was slowly leading Yuzuriha out of the drop tower attraction. Lin Chia and Amamiya Haruki were still waiting nearby. Although Yuzuriha had invited them both to ride the drop tower, Lin Chia really didn't want to go. After all, he was someone who had ridden dragons and nimbus clouds. A drop tower at this height felt trivial to him. If he went up and everyone else was screaming while he stood there expressionless, it would certainly ruin the mood. Moreover, it was a time for a father-daughter reunion and he didn't need to intrude. Alright, we finished the last attraction. It's time for us to head back, okay? Uncle Kayasuke smiled at Yuzuriha holding her hand. Yuzuriha lowered her head and didn't say anything. Little Yuzuri? Oh? Yuzuriha snapped back to reality, raised her head and forced a smile. I'll just go to the restroom for a moment. Watching Yuzuriha jog toward the restroom, Lin Chia furrowed his brow slightly. About 10 minutes later, Yuzuriha emerged from the restroom, her head hanging low, looking somewhat lost. What's wrong? Little Yuzuri? Uncle Kayasuke asked, puzzled. It's nothing. Yuzuriha smiled faintly. Let's go back. The group walked along the colorful path of the amusement park toward the exit, but the atmosphere felt heavy. Yuzuriha hardly spoke, and even when Uncle Kayasuke tried to initiate conversation, she only responded absent-mindedly. Light rain began to fall from the sky, and dark clouds gradually obscured the heavens. It was still afternoon, yet there was no trace of sunlight. Even so, the noise and laughter of the amusement park continued unabated. Tourists opened their umbrellas, forming groups as they queued for attractions. Cartoon-themed rides played cheerful music, inching along the path. Upon reaching the amusement park's entrance, Yuzuriha suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Little Yuzuri? Uncle Kayasuke turned to ask. Yuzuriha stood there with her head down, her eyes reddening as tears welled up uncontrollably. Her small body trembled slightly as she slowly crouched down, hugging herself tightly. Lin Chia and Amamiya Haruki exchanged glances. I'm sorry. Yuzuriha buried her head in her arms, her voice choked with sobs. I just can't help it. Uncle Kayasuke was taken aback and immediately spoke up. Little Yuzuri, do you want to keep playing? It's okay, we can go back and continue playing. We can buy some umbrellas at the store. Thank you, but that's not necessary. Big brother Jean. Yuzuriha managed to squeeze out a smile through her tear-streaked face. Uncle Kayasuke stood frozen in place. Lin Chia and Amamiya Haruki stood silently, letting out a sigh. My dad, he's afraid of heights, so he wouldn't ride the drop tower with me. Even if he did, he wouldn't be that happy. Yuzuriha's voice was a bit choked. I should have realized this earlier. We killed the Oracle Envoy. This matter can't just end like this. Dad worked so hard to get the black rope. He wouldn't just give up like that. So many Oracle Envoys have died. If he wants to attack the Pure Land, now is the best opportunity. My little brother is still being tormented. At this point, how could he come to the amusement park with me and have so much fun? Uncle Kayasuke stood there for a long time, sighed deeply, and the golden illusion dissipated, returning to Jin's form. Meanwhile, the Chizuru that Yuzuriha was holding transformed into a cute bubble sword. From the moment Yuzuriha opened the door today, Jin had been hypnotizing her. This was Uncle Kayasuke's request. Last night, after Yuzuriha fell asleep, Uncle Kayasuke borrowed both Chizuru and Rain Collapse, and rushed to Tokyo overnight. Except for Yuzuriha herself, everyone else was in the know. Uncle Kayasuke wanted to stay and accompany Yuzuriha, but if he wanted to attack the Pure Land, he couldn't miss this opportunity. So he had to ask Jin to take on his appearance, at least to accompany his daughter to the amusement park once, ensuring she had a beautiful memory. Little Yuzuri, you don't need to worry too much. Lin Chia squatted down in front of her. This time your dad will definitely bring your little brother back. Then your family will be reunited. Amamiya Haruki nodded in agreement. But Yuzuriha thought of the nightmare she had last night, feeling uneasy. She looked up at Jin. Big brother Jin, you don't need to worry about me. Go help my dad quickly. Jin glanced at Lin Chia, who nodded back. Then I'll go. You take good care of her. With that, Jin transformed into golden light and vanished from the spot. Lin Chia watched Jin disappear, then reached out his hand to Yuzuriha, smiling as he said, Let's go home. Tokyo. Under the dark, heavy thunderclouds, this modern city flickered with enchanting lights. The buzzing sound of traffic mixed with distant thunder, and through the mirrored surfaces of skyscrapers, deep blue lightning could be seen dancing between the clouds. As the storm approached, pedestrians quickened their pace. Just as the red light began to flash overhead, a large number of people rushed out from the roadside, hurrying home. The green light switched. On the dark asphalt road, only one man remained standing. He wore a black sequined suit, his hair meticulously styled, and a wilted red rose was tucked into his waist pocket. A gust of chilly wind mixed with the light rain blew past, scattering some petals from the rose. At his waist hung 4 blades. Pedestrians saw him and began to whisper among themselves, hastily walking around him, fearing he was a madman carrying knives in the street. Some even stopped at a distance, pulling out their phones to call the police. Soon after, faint sirens could be heard from the end of the street. The man stood quietly by the roadside, seemingly indifferent to everything around him. He simply looked up at the sky above, at the massive silver disk suspended between the thunderclouds, his eyes deep and cold like a winter lake. After an unknown amount of time, he gently raised his hand and brushed it across his face. The ordinary face of a middle-aged man vanished in an instant, replaced by a cold visage marked by 3 gruesome scars. If one overlooked those scars, he would undoubtedly appear as a charming and intoxicating gentleman. At that moment, the pedestrians by the roadside suddenly felt that this face looked somewhat familiar. They seemed to recall something, and terror flickered in their eyes. This man, carrying a wilted red rose and with 4 blades at his waist, was no longer Uncle Kyosuke from the Osaka Black Wutone Club. No. He was the country's most wanted criminal of the fierce ghost level. Yuzuriha Kurotetsu. Chapter 675. Cleansing the Pure Land. Crash. A bolt of lightning sliced through the dark clouds, weaving around the silver cloud disk in the sky, the deafening thunder echoing between heaven and earth, causing hearts to tremble. Pedestrians on the street gasped in shock, frantically fleeing from the middle-aged man standing by the roadside, the flow of people on the entire street rapidly disappearing. The streetlight above Yuzu Blacksha flickered twice before plunging into darkness. He stood in the shadows, gazing up at the pure land, suspended above humanity, a chilling, killing intent radiating from his eyes. He raised his left hand, gently resting it on the hilt of the deep blue long knife at his waist. The bright blade slowly slid out of its sheath in the air. Crash! Another thunderclap resounded within the clouds. Immediately after, torrential rain poured down from the sky, swaying between the buildings with the cold wind, completely enveloping the city in a curtain of rain. The downpour was relentless. The 4th of the 9 blades of disaster, rain collapse. The rainwater washed over the scorching streets, turning into streams that flowed past Yuzu Blacksha's leather shoes, soaking his clothes. Amidst the rain curtain, several armed police cars sped in from a distance, suddenly braking at the front of the street, forming an arc that trapped the man with 4 knives in the corner. One by one, fully armed police officers emerged from the vehicles, cautiously aiming their guns at the man in the rain. Yuzu Blacksha. We are from the Tokyo Police Department. The police shouted, their voices drowning out the thunder and sirens, echoing through the street. Dozens of guns were aimed at Yuzu Blacksha, all of them elite officers from the Tokyo Police Department, yet at this moment, not a single one dared to pull the trigger. Because that man was the fierce ghost. Yuzu Blacksha stood alone in the rain, his gaze still calmly fixed on the pure land, seemingly oblivious to the police's shouts. He slowly extended his right hand, resting it on the hilt of the black long knife. How ironic. Yuzu Blacksha's eyes swept over the police, a cold smile forming. When will you people wake up and see who the real evil is? The true evil is not me. It is it. Yuzu Blacksha drew the black long knife from its sheath, the blade slicing through the rain curtain, aimed at the pure land suspended in the sky. Pure land, Yuzu Blacksha murmured. I, Yuzu Blacksha, have returned. Return my son to me. As his voice fell, he thrust the black long knife forcefully into the ground beneath him. A flicker of ghostly light shimmered on the blade. At the same time, a massive black knife projection emerged from the clouds above Tokyo, aimed at the pure land, like a sharp black mountain suddenly descending. The 5th of the 9 blades of disaster, black rope. Clang. The black knife projection struck the surface of the silver disc, producing a deep explosive sound. The blade scraped against the surface of the silver disc, creating sparks, yet it could not penetrate that layer of silver armor. The pure land, tilted slightly from the blow but remained unbroken. Tokyo police officers who witnessed this scene stood frozen in place. What is he doing? This man is actually attacking the Pure Land. That is the residence of the Oracle, the sacred ground of life, the holy place that carries the faith of this nation. Has he gone mad? Yuzu Blacksha's gaze remained fixed on the Pure Land, now slanted by the black rope, his brow furrowing slightly as he clicked his tongue. Really tough. I need to put in more effort. He sheathed the rain collapse, gripping the hilt of the black rope, with both hands, exerting all his strength to bring the long knife down. At that moment the black knife projection above the Pure Land surged again, the blade solidifying several times, the force of the strike exploding downward, and the blade truly pierced through that layer of silver shell, shallowly entering the interior of the Pure Land. The strike went in. Immediately after, the black knife projection slashed sideways, cutting through the silver disc like a hot knife through butter, ultimately slicing down along the edge of the disc. Dense sparks erupted from the surface of the disc, emitting a grating sound that made one's teeth ache. This perfectly crafted, technologically advanced silver disc was forcibly damaged, and although it was a small portion compared to the overall size, it was the first time in 100 years that the Pure Land had been breached by human hands. Yuzu Blacksha's strike shattered a corner of the Pure Land. The entire Tokyo was shaken. Boom. Inside the control room, a violent tremor shook the space. And Qingyu, who was playing chess with Jiang Er, let out a soft gasp, looking up in the direction of the sound, a hint of surprise flickering in his eyes. What happened? Jiang Er raised his arms slightly, and the electronic screen beside him displayed the structural diagram of the Pure Land, the voice coming through the Bluetooth headset. Yuzu Blacksha has slashed open the Pure Land, but it's in the auxiliary control room area, still far from us. He actually cut it open. What a formidable uncle. And Qingyu smiled slightly, but then his expression gradually turned serious. Then we should start taking action. Jiang Er nodded solemnly. All right. Pure Land. On the other side. What's going on? The white-robed oracle suddenly raised his head. Yuzutsu. Detected external attack. Damage rate to the Pure Land is %. Minor damage in the auxiliary control room area. Energy wave comparison in progress. Comparison complete. Source of damage is the 5th of the 9 blades of disaster, black rope. The attacker is the fierce ghost level wanted criminal, Yuzu Blacksha. Yuzu Blacksha. The white-robed oracle nearly ground his teeth as he spoke the name. Even the black rope shouldn't be able to so easily cut through the Pure Land. Where is the automatic defense system? The automatic defense system has been shut down. The white-robed oracle asked in confusion, how could it be shut down? Isn't it supposed to activate automatically? Reason for shutdown unknown. A bug occurred. Activate the automatic defense system. We cannot withstand a second strike from him. The white-robed oracle paused for a moment as if making a firm decision and spoke coldly. Yuzu Blacksha's knife has slashed the Pure Land, challenging divine authority, shaking the foundation of Japan. Raise his wanted level to extreme evil. Yuzu Blacksha's wanted notice is being updated. Update complete. Nationwide pursuit of extreme evil level wanted criminal Yuzu Blacksha is underway. Oracle 1, 3, 5 and 7. Mobilize immediately for a death encirclement. The electronic voice of Yuzutsu echoed within the Pure Land, and moments later, 4 hatches opened at the edge of the disc, and 4 oracles leaped down from the sky, heading straight for Yuzu Blacksha on the ground. Just as all the oracles surged out, the voice of Yuzutsu rang out again, distorted by intense electromagnetic interference. Warning. Large-scale illegal intrusion detected. Base code is being tampered with. What are you shouting for? Now that the oracles are gone, even if you scream your lungs out, no one will come to save you. He. Warning. Large-scale illegal intrusion detected. Shut up, obediently hand over the highest authority. Warning. Chapter 676. The Extremely Evil Black Philosopher. Look. The Pure Land has been cut open. Are you crazy? That's the Pure Land. Who did this? Great deity, please forgive us for the sins of humanity. The oracle is about to be enraged. Everyone in Tokyo witnessed the slash that tore through the Pure Land. They, their parents and their ancestors had never seen anything like this, filling them with unprecedented anger and fear. At the same time, all the electronic screens across Japan began to flicker. A wanted poster occupied every screen simultaneously. It featured a middle-aged man with 3 scars on his face, dressed in a sequined suit, his expression dark, eyes glinting with a chilling murderous intent. He stood amidst the rain for long knives hanging at his waist. A black and red warning tape circled around him, flashing at an astonishing frequency. Above him 2 blood-red characters floated, their strokes revealing a sinister intent. Extreme evil. Extreme evil, unforgivable, level wanted criminal, Yuzuri Kurotetsu. There was no bounty amount, no reward for reporting him. All citizens who saw him were obligated to report to the authorities. Anyone who concealed this information would also face death without mercy. This was the power of the extreme evil wanted notice. On the edge of the road, Yuzuri Kurotetsu, holding the black rope, looked up at the screen across the street, a sarcastic smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. Extreme evil, huh? From the edge of the silver disc in the sky, 4 figures swooped down from above, diving toward Yuzuri Kurotetsu. The last 4 oracle messengers of the Pure Land were all mobilized. My task is complete, now it's up to you. His gaze fixed on the disc floating in the air, he murmured. Yuzuri Kurotetsu sheathed the black rope, and placed his hand on the hilt of a snow-white long knife, slowly drawing it out. The third of the Katsu 9 blades, 1,000 cranes. In the next moment, Yuzuri Kurotetsu transformed into a flurry of paper cranes, soaring into the sky against the falling raindrops, flying toward another direction in the city. The 4 oracle messengers carrying terrifying power followed closely behind. The speed of the paper cranes was astonishing. By the time they regrouped, they had already reached the outskirts of Tokyo. Yuzuri Kurotetsu's figure emerged among the cranes as he turned to face the 4 figures that had landed around him. Extreme evil level wanted criminal, Yuzuri Kurotetsu. The cloaked first oracle messenger spoke slowly. We represent the deity to execute divine punishment upon you. You represent the deity? Yuzuri Kurotetsu scoffed. What gives you the right to represent the deity? Where is the deity? I don't see it. The eyes of the oracle messengers narrowed slightly, anger flashing across their faces. I don't care whether your so-called deity is real or not. I'm not interested, Yuzuri Kurotetsu said, placing his hands on the hilt of his knives, speaking slowly and firmly. Today I will definitely bring my son back. Arrogant. Boom. 5 figures collided violently on the desolate ground, the shockwave instantly turning everything around them into dust, scattering into the air. Baka. Black Kill Group building. Lin Chia stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling window, watching the electronic screens flickering throughout the city below. Every screen displayed Yuzuri Kurotetsu's extreme evil wanted notice, the crimson light nearly occupying half the sky. It seems the fighting has already started over there, Amamiya Haruki said as he walked up beside him. Yeah, counting the 3 oracle messengers we dealt with here, Uncle Kayasuke should be facing 4 oracle messengers alone. Even if he has 4 Katsu blades, he might not win, Amamiya Haruki said, worry evident in his eyes. After all, 2 fists can't fight 4 hands. No matter how strong he is, he's still just one person. Why didn't you go with him? Isn't destroying the Pure Land your goal too? I wanted to go with him, Amamiya Haruki sighed. Last night I told him that if he didn't let me go with him, I wouldn't lend him rain collapse. And then he used an illusion to swap my rain collapse with something else. By the time I realized it, I was left holding a rolling pin. Lin Chia couldn't help but say, he's your elder. It's normal for him not to want you to take risks with him. By the way, do you really have a way to retrieve those blades from a distance? Amamiya Haruki asked, puzzled. If those 4 blades fall into the hands of the oracle messengers, our Katsu blade masters will be completely powerless. Don't worry, I left formations on all 4 blades. Once the time we agreed upon with Uncle Kayasuke arrives, I'll be able to retrieve them. Lin Chia said calmly. Before Uncle Kayasuke left last night, he specifically asked him to leave summoning formations on the 4 blades, so even if something unexpected happened, those blades wouldn't fall into the hands of the oracle messengers. The deadline for this agreement was set for 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. If Uncle Kayasuke succeeded in rescuing his son, he would definitely contact Lin Chia before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. If not, it would mean he had failed. Hearing Lin Chia's tone so assured, Amamiya Haruki felt relieved. Suddenly Lin Chia seemed to sense something, looking curiously at the nearby floor-to-ceiling window. What's wrong? Just now did you see anything flash by in the reflection? Lin Chia asked uncertainly. Amamiya Haruki turned to look at the floor-to-ceiling window in front of them. The window reflected their images, empty and devoid of anything unusual. No, are you seeing things? Amamiya Haruki asked. Lin Chia frowned slightly, seriously staring at the large floor-to-ceiling window as if pondering something. Pure Land. Zhang Air, how is your infiltration of the Pure Land system going? And Qingyu stood by the window watching the distant explosions erupting at the edge of Tokyo, adjusting her glasses as she asked. The artificial intelligence of the Pure Land, Yuzuan, is quite weak against my abilities. Once all the Oracle messengers left, there was nothing here that could restrain me. Zhang Air's voice came through the Bluetooth headset. Now I have gained control over 82% of the Pure Land. Have you obtained the highest authority in Lab Zero? I have. Zhang Air's voice paused. I have opened all the passageways to Lab Zero and can go there at any time. And Qingyu nodded, straightening her white lab coat and turned to walk toward the end of the corridor. Let's go. I'll meet this artificial deity. Chapter 677. Yuzu Pair Waterfall. Identity verification in progress. Warning: identity verification failed. Identity verification successful. Please proceed. The cold electronic voice stopped abruptly and then Zhang Air's voice came through. The metallic door in front of Qingyu slowly lifted, and lights along the dark corridor began to illuminate section by section. Qingyu calmly stepped inside. At the end of the corridor, a massive room occupied nearly a third of the experimental area. Huge one-way glass surrounded the room, and standing outside the glass, Qingyu could clearly see the scene inside. White floor tiles, white beds, white walls, white ceiling. Inside the immaculate white room, a figure dressed in a deep blue surgical gown was curled up on a single sofa, holding a controller connected to a television on the opposite wall. On the TV screen, a plumber in red overalls was throwing his red hat like a boomerang, skillfully picking up gold coins from the ground while running towards a green chimney ahead. He was a tall, slender boy with delicate and three-dimensional features, handsome and striking, even more so than a young Jingjia. He looked like a beautiful youth straight out of a fairy tale, with snow-white long hair that was almost taller than his entire body, cascading like a satin waterfall over the sofa and onto the floor. His skin was an unhealthy pale, but his eyes fixed on the screen were bright and spirited. If one looked closely, they could see that his pupils were somewhat different from those of a normal person. His eyes resembled a pair of cross-shaped stars, faintly shimmering in the black irises. Is this a 13-year-old child? Zhang Air's surprised voice sounded beside Qingyu. With this height and looks, he seems to be 18 or 19 at least, right? The Oracle injected him with a large amount of artificial hormones during the experiment, accelerating his physical growth process. So his physical age is far beyond 13. As for his white hair, it should be the result of long-term accumulation of the drugs in his body, Qingyu explained. That's truly insane. Qingyu observed him for a moment from outside the one-way glass. Open the door, I want to talk to him. But we still can't determine if he is safe, Zhang Air said with some concern. In the past it was always the Oracle who interacted with him. If he suddenly changed that, he might do something unpredictable. No one knows what kind of person the Oracle has turned him into over the years. If he has really been raised as an artificial god, he could be an extremely terrifying existence. It's fine, Qingyu smiled gently. Open the door. As soon as he finished speaking, the metallic door beside him slowly lifted. Qingyu adjusted his collar and stepped inside. Inside the room, Yuzu Riku was fixated on the screen, his fingers rapidly pressing the buttons on the controller. Even as Qingyu approached him, he didn't look up. Qingyu sized him up for a moment, then sat down on the floor beside him, smiling as he spoke in standard Japanese. Hello. Hello, the white-haired boy replied politely, still not looking at Qingyu but calmly said, I thought you would continue standing outside, too afraid to come in and see me. Qingyu's eyes narrowed slightly. He turned to look. Indeed, the room was a one-way glass, appearing as just a mirror from the inside, making it impossible to see the outside. How did he know someone was standing outside in such a tightly secured laboratory? You don't need to look. The naked eye can't see outside from here, Yuzu Riku said flatly. Then how did you see? Enchinyu asked curiously. I saw it on the minimap. Minimap? Yeah. Yuzu Riku slowly explained, you can't see it but it's in my mental world. I can see that on the current map, there is only one red dot for you and a translucent red dot that covers every corner of this place. This is the first time I've seen such a situation. Is that sister a ghost? Or is she like Yuzuki, an artificial intelligence? Hearing this, a flash of shock crossed Enchinyu's eyes. After hesitating for a moment he continued to ask. You can see the minimap? What else can you see? A lot of things like levels. On the TV screen, Mario successfully passed through layer after layer of levels and entered the green sewer. The words level +1 appeared on the screen along with Mario's cheers. Yuzu Riku slowly put down the controller and turned to look at Enchinyu. His cross-shaped pupils seemed to see deep into Enchinyu's heart profoundly. Level. Your level is LV68, and that sister's level is LV63. Yuzu Riku glanced at the surveillance camera in the corner. With your abilities, you shouldn't be able to kill an LV84 oracle, right? What trick did you use to lure them away? Enchinyu stood frozen in place. Minimap levels. Was this child talking about a game? Could it be that this world in his eyes was just a game? No, that's not right. He could clearly know his position and Jiang Er's existence, and even visualize realms as levels. This was no simple cognitive bias. His ability itself was the game. Enchinyu pondered for a moment and asked, what about you? What is your level? Me. Yuzu Riku's pale lips curled into a faint smile. My level is LV97. 97. Enchinyu frowned in thought. If this child's classification of levels is correct, his LV68 represents the C realm, the oracle's LV84 represents Klein, then the LV97 he mentioned corresponds to the pinnacle of humanity. Enchinyu's gaze towards Yuzu Riku had completely changed. This group of oracles had actually managed to secretly create a being at the pinnacle of humanity through artificial experimentation? How did they accomplish this? In Enchinyu's eyes, a long-lost spark of excitement and curiosity flickered. Chinyu, I think this child is not quite right. It's not safe for you inside, hurry and come out. Jiang Er's voice came through the Bluetooth headset, filled with unease. Before Enchinyu could respond, Yuzu Riku sitting opposite him seemed to have heard those words. He expressionlessly raised his head and looked at the surveillance camera in the corner. Sister, you don't need to be so nervous, he squinted and smiled. I'm very safe. In his eyes, that cross-shaped pupil flashed with a glimmer. Sizzle. The entire power supply system of the Pure Land was instantly cut off, plunging the surroundings into darkness. In the entire silver circular space, only the television hanging on the wall in this small room continued to flicker with light, pixelated text assembling together, swirling between black and red light. You dead. Chapter 678. Game Trap. The dim light from the television screen illuminated Enchinyu's profile, casting a pale hue on his glasses. He sat calmly opposite Yuli Longbai, showing no signs of being startled by the sudden turn of events. Instead he continued to gaze at Yuli Longbai's body, his gray eyes subtly flickering as he analyzed the other person. I'm sorry, I think I was a bit too rough, Yuli Longbai said with a slight apologetic smile, gently raising his hand, causing the power supply of the entire Pure Land to restore once more. Finally, there's someone other than the Oracle envoys I can communicate with. I couldn't quite control myself. It's okay. Enchinyu adjusted his glasses and smiled back. I'm curious. You're so strong, why are you still locked up here for experiments? With your level, even if 7 Oracle envoys teamed up against you, you should be able to escape, right? Yuli Longbai shook his head. Not possible? Enchinyu was taken aback. They can't defeat me even when they team up, Yuli Longbai replied seriously. No matter the level, talent, skills, health points, or combat power, they can't win against me because I possess a world boss level panel. Buy vitamins and supplements. Buy vitamins and supplements. If it weren't for Enchinyu having played games for a while before, he might not have understood what Yuli Longbai was talking about. And besides, I don't want to leave here. Why? Nchinyu asked, puzzled. Being locked in this room and treated like a lab rat for experiments, don't you long for freedom? But if I leave here I won't be able to play games. Yuli Longbai glanced at him, hesitated for a moment, then stood up from the sofa. His long white hair trailed on the ground, flowing like satin with his movements. He finally stopped in front of the wooden cabinet beneath the television. He reached out and pulled open a drawer, revealing a dense collection of game cartridges piled like a small mountain, dazzling to behold. These are my treasures. Yuli Longbai turned around, looking into Nchinyu's eyes earnestly. Here I have so many games to play, but if I go outside where would I find so many games? These are rare and precious items, right? As long as I cooperate with them to inject a little something every day I can play indefinitely. Isn't that very happy? Nchinyu stared blankly at Yuli Longbai for a long time before realizing what was going on. He had always thought that the Oracle envoys used some advanced control methods to keep Yuli Longbai here, but he never expected it was just about games. Moreover, they were all outdated games from 2 or 3 decades ago. Isn't this just fooling a child? Upon reflection, despite Yuli Longbai's appearance, his psychological age was only 13, and he had grown up here since childhood. If the Oracle envoys deceived him in this regard, he certainly wouldn't notice. Nchinyu looked at him with a complex expression, walked over to the pile of treasures, squatted down and began to rummage through them carefully. Metal Slug King of Fighters Contra Super Mario Beach Volleyball. Sure enough, they are all outdated games. Nchinyu sighed deeply. The Oracle envoys used this pile of things to make Yuli Longbai willingly be a test subject for over a decade? Kui. How is it? Aren't my collections rich? Yuli Longbai asked with a smile, his eyes squinting into slits. Nchinyu casually tossed the cartridges aside and shook his head. These things to some extent are indeed collections. The Oracle envoys deceived you. Games outside are just commonplace items, not precious at all. As long as you spend a little money, you can buy 10 times more games than these anytime. Moreover, after so many years, the gaming industry outside has developed to a level you can't even imagine. This old-fashioned card reader has been eliminated. Now there are PS and S and even VR headsets everywhere. Yuli Longbai stood there in a daze for a long time. What is PS? What is VR? Pieces. The ethereal Jiang Air stood outside the room, looking at the 2 boys sitting on the floor, seriously discussing the development of the gaming industry, with a somewhat helpless expression as she held her forehead. Just a moment ago, when Yuli Longbai cut off the power supply to the Pure Land, she thought a fierce battle was about to break out and was even prepared to forcibly possess him to give Nchinyu a chance to escape. But she never expected the situation to develop in such a bizarre direction. After Nchinyu finished explaining the current state of the gaming industry in Japan, Yuli Longbai's expression turned strange. He frowned, scrutinizing Nchinyu, seemingly a bit skeptical. The Oracle envoy said that the technology here is the most advanced in this country. He's not wrong. Then why are there only these games here while the world below has the advanced games you mentioned? Yuli Longbai asked in confusion. If the technology here is advanced, shouldn't the gaming industry be even more advanced? The demand of the masses is the primary productive force of the industry, Nchinyu patiently explained. There are only a few of you here, so it's impossible to produce games. The games the Oracle envoys gave you should have been brought up from below a long time ago. Yuli Longbai still frowned. Don't you believe me? I don't believe it. Then go down and see for yourself, won't you know? Nchinyu said with a smile. As far as I know, there's a place called Akihabara in this country, where there's an entire street of game stores. If you go there you'll definitely understand. Yuli Longbai's eyes sparkled, seemingly intrigued. What if the Oracle envoys come back? Anyway, they can't defeat you even when they team up. Why are you afraid of them? Nchinyu replied leisurely. Besides, I assure you they won't be able to return here. You're really not lying to me? Don't worry, I won't deceive you. Nchinyu hesitated for a moment. How about this? I'll help you keep these game cartridges here. If you don't find the games I mentioned in the world below, you can come back to find me. I'll be here for a long time. After all, with your strength, returning to the Pure Land shouldn't be a difficult task. Yuli Longbai looked at the mountain of old game cartridges, hesitated for a long time, then nodded heavily. Okay, I'll go down and take a look. If I don't find them, I will definitely come back to find you. By the way, when you go down, remember to pay attention to your father. He has been looking for you for 13 years. And Qingyu did not forget his promise with Yoli Heijia. Yoli Longbai was taken aback, turned to look at him, confusion filling his eyes. Father, what is that? Chapter 679. Disaster in the Prison. Boom boom boom. The continuous sounds of explosions erupted from the outskirts of Tokyo, blinding flashes of fire mixed with thick smoke, slowly rising into the sky. This massive commotion was enough to attract the attention of most Tokyo residents, yet no one dared to approach that direction. Even the Tokyo police merely stood silently, quietly watching the scene. That was a battle between the Oracle envoys and a wanted criminal of the highest degree, a conflict far beyond their ability to intervene. The battlefield. Thousands of paper cranes swept through the air like a hurricane, separating the 4 Oracle envoys from one another. Wherever they looked, they could not see any trace of the other envoys or Yuzuri Kurozetsu, as if they had been completely submerged in a sea of paper cranes. Although destroying these paper cranes would be a trivial matter for them, they simply could not do it. Because they themselves could not distinguish whether they were truly in the midst of real paper cranes or trapped within the illusion created by the misty eyes. Even if they forcibly eliminated all the surrounding paper cranes, an endless stream would continue to accumulate. The combination of 1,000 cranes and misty eyes successfully isolated the battlefield of the 4 Oracle envoys. Although once Yuzuri Kurozetsu harbored murderous intent towards one of the envoys, that envoy would immediately awaken from the illusion. This at least ensured that he would not be simultaneously besieged by all 4. With the powers of Rain Collapse and Black Rope, even facing the attacks of 2 envoys at once would not put him at a disadvantage. The 4 Oracle envoys could not work together to kill Yuzuri Kurozetsu, nor could he simultaneously eliminate all 4 envoys, leading to a stalemate. However, this stalemate did not last long. The first Oracle envoy, clad in a black robe, stood amidst the flock of cranes, squinting at the endless paper cranes around him. The black circle in his left eye flickered for a moment, and he gently raised his palm, calmly speaking. Shinra Hell. Thud 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 thud. Black spikes coalesced from the void, deeply piercing the ground beneath him. These dark spikes vertically surrounded him, gradually intertwining to form a black cage, within which he was imprisoned. This cage completely isolated him from the surrounding paper cranes. At the top of the cage, a grotesque ghostly figure emerged, roaring at the sky full of paper cranes, its crimson eyes radiating a chilling murderous intent. The moment this prison took shape, the world in the black-robed envoy's eyes slightly distorted. The once sky full of paper cranes had vanished, replaced by a desolate wasteland. This prison utterly severed the inside from the outside. Even the illusions of 1,000 cranes and misty eyes could not penetrate this seemingly simple cage, having no effect on the black-robed envoy imprisoned within. This was a prison in the absolute sense. He was the first Oracle envoy of the Pure Land, known as Disaster of the Abyss. In the eyes of the black-robed envoy on the barren land, Yuzuri Kurozetsu was fiercely battling the disaster of soldiers, the white-robed envoy, while the other 2 envoys were either trapped among countless paper cranes or, like his original self, caught in the illusion created by misty eyes. Yuzuri Kurozetsu gripped the black rope in his hand, summoning a massive blade projection, clashing continuously with the invisible slashes of the white-robed envoy, the explosive sounds echoing like thunder in the sky. In the next moment, his figure flickered and vanished into the rain. When he reappeared, he was already behind the white-robed envoy, the black long knife in his hand swiftly slashing towards the envoy's body. Clang. The white-robed envoy barely managed to block the strike, but was sent flying by the force of the blow, crashing heavily onto the barren ground, utterly disheveled. Facing Yuzuri Kurozetsu, who wielded 2 highly lethal Kujin blades, he found himself at an absolute disadvantage. Yuzuri Kurozetsu was preparing to press the attack when in the next moment, black spikes shot out from the void, surrounding him in an instant. At the same time, black chains like venomous snakes extended from the ground lightning fast, reaching for his body. Yuzuri Kurozetsu's pupils suddenly constricted, the light of Rain Collapse flickering in his hand. He moved with astonishing speed, leaving behind trails in the rain, trying to escape the impending formation of the prison. He had witnessed the black-robed envoy's prowess 13 years ago, and this time he would not so easily fall into the prison created by his opponent. The white-robed envoy stood up from the ground, turning to look at the expressionless black-robed envoy in the prison. The latter glanced at him and said, "Go wake those two fools." The white-robed envoy nodded, instantly unleashing two invisible blade slashes, one flying towards the fifth envoy trapped by the paper cranes, and the other towards the seventh envoy lost in the illusion. Stimulated by the murderous intent, the seventh envoy instantly awakened, while the fifth envoy broke free. The three envoys simultaneously turned their attention to Yuzuri Kurozetsu, who was desperately dodging the prison, and moved to encircle him from different directions. Yuzuri Kurozetsu's expression darkened immediately. He instinctively looked up at the silver disc hovering in the sky above Tokyo, murmuring to himself, "Why isn't it ready yet? I can barely hold on." Thud! An invisible blade slash cut through the air, aiming for Yuzuri Kurozetsu's throat. He quickly flipped over using the black rope to block the strike head-on, but immediately after the attacks from the other two envoys crashed down, sending him plummeting from the sky and creating a large crater upon impact with the ground. Amidst the billowing smoke, Yuzuri Kurozetsu's sequin suit was already tattered. He coughed as he steadied himself, not having time to think further before vanishing into the rain once more. Strange blue spots appeared on his body, and he began to feel a dull pain in his internal organs. The fifth envoy, disaster of illness. A black prison instantly sealed off the spot where he had been standing. While dodging the prison, Yuzuri Kurozetsu was also facing the direct attacks of the three envoys. His speed of movement slowed and the wounds on his body multiplied. The situation grew increasingly dire. If this continued, within 3 minutes he would either die at the hands of the three envoys, succumb to illness, or be trapped in the prison created by the first envoy, ultimately dying within it. Yuzuri Kurozetsu took a deep breath, biting down hard on his tongue, a metallic sweetness flooding his mouth. His fading consciousness was jolted back into clarity. He could not fall here. He swung his blade, forcing back the white-robed envoy, and out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of the silver disc in the distance. This time he saw a figure leap from the edge of the disc, landing somewhere in the city. Yuzuri Kurozetsu's eyes lit up. That kid succeeded. This momentary distraction caused him to take a direct hit from an envoy's attack, and he spat out a mouthful of blood, though the corner of his mouth slightly curled upward. He sheathed the black rope while drawing the 1,000 cranes and misty eyes, his figure transforming into paper cranes at an astonishing speed, dissipating into the air. Finally, I've waited for this day. Chapter 680. Change of ownership in the Pure Land. The four Oracle envoys were slightly taken aback when they saw Yuzuri Black just suddenly flee so decisively. The paper cranes, enhanced by illusion, fluttered in all directions, making it impossible to determine which way he had actually run. The black-robed Oracle envoy stood at the center of the swirling paper cranes, his brow furrowed as if deep in thought. Split up and pursue? The other Oracle envoys exchanged glances, just about to scatter to track Yuzuri Black's whereabouts when the black-robed Oracle envoy suddenly spoke up. Wait. The three Oracle envoys turned to look at him simultaneously. Something feels off. The black-robed Oracle envoy's gaze sharpened. Earlier he was so adamant about rescuing Subject Zero. Why did he suddenly flee so decisively? It seemed he had thought of something, glancing in the direction Yuzuri Black had looked. Above Tokyo, the silver disc hung silently in the air, showing no signs of abnormality. Felt like something was wrong. After pondering for a moment, a black halo suddenly lit up in his left eye, and he spoke in a deep voice. Yuzuki, has anything happened in the Pure Land? Z. A faint sound of static echoed in his ears, but the electronic voice did not respond, as if it had completely lost signal. The black-robed Oracle envoy's expression darkened instantly. Yuzuki? ZZVZ. Not good. The black-robed Oracle envoy realized what was happening, his pupils constricting as he suddenly shot up from the ground, flying toward the Pure Land, suspended above Tokyo. The other Oracle envoys seemed to sense that something was amiss and followed closely behind. The four Oracle envoys soared into the sky, heading straight for the entrance of the Pure Land. The black-robed Oracle envoy stood before the scanning device, his eyes filled with grave concern. The scanning light swept over the black-robed Oracle envoy, and a voice emerged from the screen. Identity verification failed, no entry permission. I am an Oracle envoy. How could I not be verified? Identity verification failed, no entry permission. I am. Stop with the I am nonsense. No permission means no permission. Off you go. The cold female voice from the screen sounded somewhat impatient. From now on, this Pure Land will be under the surname N. You can go wander around. At that moment, 1,000 thoughts raced through the black-robed Oracle envoy's mind. What on earth had happened in the Pure Land while they were away? What about Yuzuki? Who was that inexplicably appearing girl on the screen? How did she manage to infiltrate the Pure Land? How did she gain the highest authority in such a short time and keep them locked out? They never expected that in the time it took to hunt down a most evil wanted criminal, their home had already been stolen by someone else, and they had been successfully locked out. The 4 Oracle envoys were simultaneously left in disarray by the wind. What kind of joke is this? The white-robed Oracle envoy's eyes ignited with fury as he raised both hands and slammed them heavily onto the silver deck of the Pure Land. Invisible slashing patterns transmitted from his palms, striking down forcefully. Clay. A semi-transparent silver barrier appeared in the void before the deck, absorbing the blow. The barrier merely trembled slightly, showing no signs of damage and did not affect the silver disc within. This strike had failed to shake the Pure Land. Useless. Before we left, we activated the automatic defense system. This barrier can withstand all attacks below the divine level. Even if the 4 of us joined forces, we couldn't break through it. The black-robed Oracle envoy shook his head. At that moment, the white-robed Oracle envoy seemed to recall something. Earlier, when Subject 2 left, the automatic defense system was inexplicably turned off, which allowed Yuzuri Blacksha to slice through the Pure Land. At that time, I thought it was a problem with Yuzuki's system. Now it seems they must have been hiding in the Pure Land for a long time. The black-robed Oracle envoy narrowed his eyes, continuing his train of thought. To infiltrate the Pure Land without us noticing and to remain hidden for so long? If I'm not mistaken, the person who tampered with the Pure Land permissions is likely in cahoots with Yuzuri Blacksha. After that person secretly turned off the automatic defense system, Yuzuri Blacksha came to Tokyo and forcefully broke through the unguarded Pure Land, naturally becoming a most evil wanted criminal. This was part of his plan all along because he knew that once he became most evil, all Oracle envoys would rush out to hunt him down, giving the person hiding in the Pure Land the opportunity to alter permissions. Once that person fully obtained the permissions of the Pure Land, they could exile us Oracle envoys while releasing Subject 0 from within to reunite with Yuzuri Blacksha. If I'm not mistaken, Yuzuri Blacksha just received news that Subject 0 successfully escaped, which is why he retreated so directly. To reunite Yuzuri Blacksha with his son while expelling the Oracle envoys and taking control of the entire Pure Land? The white-robed Oracle envoy's expression had completely changed, gasping in disbelief. Have we all been played in his hands? What kind of terrifying scheme is this? Who exactly is in the Pure Land now? I don't know. The black-robed Oracle envoy paused. But I suspect that the intruder is involved. I don't believe anyone in this country would have the guts to seize the Pure Land. What do we do now? The most evil Yuzuri Blacksha was not killed, and they had lost the Pure Land. This time the Oracle envoys could be said to have lost everything. With direct attacks unable to penetrate the automatic defense system, and Yuzuki completely out of contact, could they only watch helplessly as the Pure Land changed hands? The black-robed Oracle envoy calmly pondered for a moment and spoke. First, let's leave here. We can't break the Pure Land by brute force. We should pursue Subject 0 who has fallen into the mortal realm. As long as we can control him, we can easily regain control of the Pure Land. But will he listen to us? The white-robed Oracle envoy said with some concern. All this time we've been luring him into the Pure Land with games. Now that he's returned to human society, he might not obey our commands anymore. The black-robed Oracle envoy's lips curled slightly as he shook his head. No, he will listen. He is a monster we created with drugs. After leaving the Pure Land, without the drugs to support him, his body won't hold out for long.